Alrighty, shall we start?
Yes.
Let's start with the protests. So have you guys all been to protests where you guys are from, or?
Well, our president's been to a protest recently. I know he was out there just marching with everybody over there in Binghamton. But me personally, I'm still in Brockport, so there's not much protest going around out here. So there's nothing going on for staying keeping the cause going. We've just been mainly using our platform to spread the word, since not all of us can actually go to protest and be out there on the front lines to support the Black Lives Matter movement and just black people in general. So we just trying to use our platform to really show our support.
Yeah, there's definitely.
Yeah, it's the same. Well, for the hard times also, I'm on campus, so I don't have any way to necessarily get out to the Rochester area.
Right.
Yeah, there's so much you can do besides protesting, and that's real upside to the internet is that there's so much you can share. There's places to donate and to sign, and you can call representatives and stuff. So there's definitely a lot you can do right now. I know I'm attending a protest on Friday, and there's been a lot of controversy with my protest, and especially because I'm in a very upstate New York, so there's a lot of conservatives that are threatening to bring out their guns, and they're stalking people, and it's just a big mess. So it's also super important to make sure that you're safe when attending protests and have the right gear with you, and snacks and water and anything you need for in case things get bad. And it's also important to take breaks and to relax and to remember to make sure you're mentally feeling okay as well.
Yeah, I know in Rochester there's a protest on Friday. I don't know if people are still doing it, but I think people are. There's been protests pretty much every single day here. So
I'm from Buffalo, so we've had several protests going on. One down in City Hall that happened 2 days ago, and recently, actually yesterday, we had a protest in one of our district police stations that is about a block away from my house. So I was on my phone going through Facebook, and I seen a Facebook Live, and I seen protesters riding down on bikes coming down to reach the destination of the police station. And so I actually put my jacket on, got out the house, and start heading down to the police station. And unfortunately, I looked to my right, and then I seen a house on fire. So I actually had to alert my mother and grandmother what was going on, and found out one of our neighbors' garages was caught on fire, and I don't know why. However, by the time I got down to the police station, the peaceful protest was pretty much over, and people was leaving peacefully, riding back down on the street. So, and actually later that night, it was a riot near my house as well. And what they did was gather garbage cans, lit them on fire, and start throwing glass around. And one car actually ran over a police officer. It was about police officers and SWAT teams outside. So I've been on the peaceful protests. I've witnessed that, but I've also witnessed the riots. So it's a lot of chaos going on as well.
yeah. I don't know if you guys saw, but in Rochester, there was a lot of white supremacists that were coming from kind of the southern tier area to come here and destroy things and make it seem
important.
The protesters were doing it.
Yeah, that's something that especially
that's happening a lot actually.
Yeah, there's so many people that are grouping the rioters and protesters together, but there's a lot of outsiders coming in to take advantage and be destructive and ruin the name, which is extremely unfortunate. And unfortunately the news doesn't always explain that whole side of it.
Definitely. just based off what I've seen, there's been a lot of anger around people coming and taking advantage of the protest and turning them into riots, and it really, shames the name Black Lives Matter, because it just makes people think that these people are just rioting to riot and loot and just really not there for everything but peaceful protesting. But in actuality, people are honestly trying to peaceful protest, trying to make a change. And when people do stuff like that, it just takes away from the actions of peaceful protest, and it's a real shame.
Very true. Also, I wanted to talk about like a lot of white people like that we might be friends with or like staying silent. And I know personally I like unfollowed a lot of people just because saying nothing speaks louder than, anything. But have you guys experienced the same thing? Like people you thought you were friends with and haven't really came out to support you guys?
Personally, I kind of deleted them a while back before anything like
Yeah.
so it was like the way I was moving back then is kind of how I'm still moving now with
Right.
my childhood and all that. So, but what's crazy still is that my high school that I graduated from are still having a racist problem. And recently, last night, a student came out exposing his racism out to to the world, to social media. And this is the second time that I've witnessed, when I was there senior year, a white student made a racist comment, and the only punishment that he had was he couldn't show up to the prom, but he was still able to graduate. And then this student recently, the principal was trying to like delete all footage from this student's social media account, so they won't know about his that he's racist. And this is like an ongoing problem. I remember in high school, the white students like made a private Snap story called Bayshore Lynch Nigga. And like it was like super like crazy. And like the principal didn't do anything. So I don't know. With this time, I feel like it's exposing more racism again. So this is very. It's a weird moment right now going on.
Do you guys know where Irondequoit is?
Yes.
So somebody from Irondequoit, I guess, got really exposed. It was a group chat, of course, but it was just a bunch of white guys, and they were basically just saying really bad things, and I guess nobody's doing anything about it. So I guess that just shows you that racism is still prevalent today. But I mean, I can show you some of, I don't know if you can see it. Well, basically, they were just saying how Black people need to go back to picking cotton, and Black Lives Matter is a joke and all that. So yeah, I think it's exposing a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I saw online, like on Twitter the other day, about someone from my area, and I don't even it just popped up on my feed. Like, I don't know how I found it, but it was like some guy that works like a nursing home, and he was saying extremely terrible things about like all minorities, like Muslims, stuff like that too. And like I know me and my friends, he works like in a nursing home. He's like an EMT, so like we sent like an email to the business saying like you guys need to take administrative action. Because your employees are publicly like being offensive, like this isn't okay. So like it's just, I hope that like there's accountability held for everybody because I mean people's true colors are showing now, and just showing how racist people are. Like it's just terrible.
I feel
Yeah.
like.
Oh, you.
Go ahead, Justin. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I know on Facebook, one of students that I used to go to high school, or maybe middle school, I'm not sure, but he used to be affiliated with the school that I used to go to, graduate from, and he blatantly came out, with a lot of racist comments, very much, embracing, like his whiteness, and blaming the Black Lives Matter movement on like Black people, saying that the things that they face are their fault. And after like everybody seeing that, and me coming from Brooklyn, there's a lot of people of color in Brooklyn. So when they see his post, there's a lot of bash that came, back on it. And there were a lot of people that were there on his Facebook to, hold him accountable. People were just making sure that like we're aware that, like these people that you may have thought, like were your allies, were your friends, they're not what they turns out to be. And that was 3 days ago. So yesterday, he came out with an apology, and there were a lot of people who were, just saying no, like we're not going to take your apology. Um, I I personally, I didn't take his apology, but what I thought was to hold him accountable in the way as, if he's serious about this apology, that he would have to, start working to realize, one, his privilege, one, the comments that he said are, completely and utterly racist, prejudice, and all that. So I told him, I'll consider, accepting your apology and believing you if you do some work. I got some homework for you.
Yeah.
So I gave him, some literature, some good books. Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro. Very much, books that will introduce you into like the history of African Americans, Black people, and how our diasporic groups came about and all that. And I also held them accountable by seeing, like I have to see you in some discussions. I have to see you making some posts. If you're serious about this, this apology, I gotta have proof. And I think to the bigger thing is that, like of course we'll encounter racist people. And me as a person, we always need more allies. It's easier to be a friend than be a foe. So, if people are willing to put the work in, even after, so they've made some very, very choices, the ability to give them reform and to see if they'll take it serious is, something that I believe, is important.
For sure, I think it's important to educate people too. I think there is a difference when people actually want to learn and when people don't, because it is the reality that some people were grown up that way, but there's no excuse to say, well, that's how it was raised, so that's how it is. That's not an excuse. You can change your mind. You can always learn more and educate yourself on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. I feel like one of the biggest things we learn from white people being silent or making these ignorant remarks is it just really shows how much their white privilege stands out, because they could say these things and there would be no consequence or action for them. Yet if a person of color were to do something outrageous to offend the public, I guarantee you there had been administrative action to cut that person off. And it just shows how much white privilege there is. Like, no matter how much someone says that they're ally or just saying, oh, I'm friends with Black people or I support Black businesses, you're not an ally if you don't speak up in our time of need, when it really comes to defending us and our way of life and who we are. Because it's 2020, and at this point it's getting ridiculous that Black men are still getting shot while there's a knee on his neck and he's not resisting and he's not doing anything. So I feel like we've come to a point in history where Black people are fed up, and it just shows what happens when you keep ignoring a situation and you don't address it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are afraid of offending their friends or their racist friends. And even I was telling my mom yesterday, I was like, I feel like the NFL and specific NFL teams, the NFL would be nowhere without Black people, and they exploit them all the time. If they want to show how much Black people mean to them, I would like to see a sizable donation, or I would like to see them do something for this. But the NFL you know, they're huge donators for Trump, and like they have such like there's such a large group of people that follow the NFL that are also racist, and like they would lose so much if they did it. It's just the fact that they're willing to like, or they're not willing to risk that to show how much they support these people. Like that's just the problem itself.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of white people that like, you know, fetishize Black people or fetishize Black men, and only like them when it's convenient for them, and you know, they don't even realize how racist that is, and their privilege is showing. So I think that's important to note, that the people who say, oh, I love Black people, I love Black men, but during this time they're not saying anything and they're not supporting them, that just shows their character and that shows their privilege.
I have this book that I'm going to finish reading, and this book is called White Rage by Carol Anderson. And this book is like speaking so much volume, especially what's going on now. And basically, she brings in one example when that massive protest in Ferguson that happened a while back. And she explains that when we were protesting against the police brutality that happened, a lot of white racists were considering it Black rage. But she claims that the actions that the white officials took place in order to like stop the protest, or the, if you want to call that, was more of white rage. Because to think about it like this, remember when those white supremacists were like protesting against the whole like quarantine and shutdown? They had they had weapons.
Yes.
Like
they were in the cops' faces with weapons and nothing was done.
Right? And they were like nothing, no one touched them, right? And that right there is apparently American patriotism, standing up for your rights, right? So now look at us, that we're protesting against police brutality, but it's wrong. And that we're looked enraged. So in this book, she explains that every action that a Black person takes, even standing up for their rights and fighting for their rights, which is patriotic in the sense, if we're going to put in terms of the Constitution and all that, it's wrong in the eyes of white supremacy. That it's considered Black rage. But in retrospect, for every action, there's an opposite reaction to it. The opposite reaction is to white supremacy trying to shut down, kill us over fighting for our rights, upholding our constitutional rights. It's a good book. I suggest, if y'all ever had the chance, get this book. And it's crazy. It really like put me in, like, gave me more perspective of what's really going on. Because it's sad, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense. How come, how come white people can like protest and riot and the government doesn't do anything? They actually claiming that they're doing, like, they have every right to. But like when Black people start protesting, it's wrong.
I mean, even cities like riot after sports teams games, and like no one ever says a word about that. So.
And especially back then with with the KKK, they were bombing churches, shooting schools and all that, and like nothing. So
go back to the beginning of American history. I mean, the white people were the ones rioting, looting.
Exactly.
That they were the ones. So to say, and even like you were saying with the white supremacists with the guns, like actual guns that are scary and can kill people. And they have every right to. And Trump said, the protesters were thugs, but the people protesting
they're like great people or something.
Yeah, they're great people and everything. So that shows you even our own president. I mean, everyone knows our president's racist, but that just shows you that even our own president doesn't support Black Lives Matter or anything.
I saw something online today that like the military advisor, he resigned today because he was mad about Trump clearing out and tear gassing like religious officials to get his photo, and he was like calling out the Secretary of Defense, saying like, you just stood there and let it happen. You could have been opposing, like you knew what happened was wrong. And I was like telling him, I was like, that's what I want to see. Like, I don't want to just see you like speak out about it and say it for the week. Like, I want to see you take actions, and I want to see you take the risk of like stepping down from your position. Like, that shows me that you care. That shows that you're willing to put like to take something away from yourself to help these people. Like, that's, you have to take risks, or else it doesn't seem like it's real.
Yeah, the people that are choosing to be, or the people that are choosing to, criticize the rioters and the protesters are choosing to be anti-Black. Because, I mean, in my opinion, it's more, you have to focus more on the man that was killed and the people that are dying. That's more important than Target,
Yeah.
Well, most people are like complaining about the buildings being destroyed, which is understandable, but like,
You can rebuild that. You can rebuild that. You can't rebuild innocent, and you can't rebuild no lives. You can't.
mm-hmm.
You can rebuild property. You can rebuild the city. They've done it before.
Yeah.
You can't rebuild lives, bro.
Yeah, I mean, when
definitely
they did
when it comes to Target, that
That's a
I'm not sure if this is the full straight answer, but one thing that I heard about the Target was that they were selling their footage of like their inside their store to the police department so that they could pick up people of color, so like definitely if that's something that like you got people working inside on the inside, that's the prison industrial complex, sending pipelining people straight to prison, and these people probably low income, not that I'm condoning stealing, but when you really don't have a choice and you've been through these years of like oppression, like the only job you could get is minimum wage, and then everywhere else the system isn't for you, the system doesn't benefit you, you try and work as hard as you can, but the movement, your economic mobility really isn't going that far. It leads you to having to do things, and it could even be seen across different races. It just so happened that what spotlight is the fact that Black people are stealing.
Yeah.
System does.
I was gonna just say, like my mentor quoted, he says, "Deprivation calls for desperation." So like if you're deprived of many resources and income, like you're gonna become desperate. You're gonna take whatever opportunity to get and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, this country has progressed throughout the years because of riots. Like, Stonewall happened because of riots. The suffragettes created riots, and that got women rights. Like, you can't just sit there and peacefully protest all the time because they'll wait for Jesus to come back. Like, they will not listen to you if you take up space and you cause a disruption and you make things happen by that. Like, you can't just sit there quietly because it's just going to keep happening.
I mean, Target is worth $32 billion. So if someone says that, oh my gosh, Target, they can't rebuild Target, they're being ignorant, because a human life is more important than Target being burned down.
I don't have no problem with the riots or looting. I just don't want nobody to get hurt. That's the only thing, because then we get labeled, of course. But as you can see, there's many of videos of even white people looting, and the media just frames it so, like, even reporters, they're like, I hope she's not looting. Like, are you serious? But if that was a Black man, he's definitely looting, right? It's just the double standard that we live in, and it's just even coming out. I feel like 2020 was an eye-opener for everything, like literally everything. Everything government-based as well, too. This coronavirus, this Black Lives Matter movement, everything is just so fabricated right now.
I think 2020 and all just, like pushed the urgency, because even before, the virus and everything, you seeing a Black man die at least, every month, once every month. It was Kobe, it was Juice WRLD, these figures that, people look up to, people respect, people believe that, it's part of their community, and it's crazy that, it's like ever since the year started, that these people are passing away, and it's like no matter what the reason is, it's just at this time it really is police brutality once again. you know, we want to stop it. We want to put it into it, or, you know, decrease the numbers.
Yeah, I saw a post yesterday. I found a post that had so many statistics about police brutality. And in 2019, there was only 27 days where the police didn't kill someone. And I'm just like, you know, like no matter what the situation is, like it's not the cop's decision to take someone's life. Like you detain them and you bring them to the station and then deal with it. Like no one should be dying on the street, regardless of race. Like that should not be happening. That's not the police's job.
Yeah, and I'm tired of people saying, well, there's good cops.
Yeah.
You know, I know cops that aren't like that, and you have to understand it's a system, and they're in the system that oppresses Black people and minorities. And there's no such thing as good cops and bad cops. There's cops that do their jobs and cops that use their power to kill Black people. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, like if you watch the documentary 13th, like the police system came up just a little bit after slavery, and it was, you know, predominantly incarcerating Black and brown men. Like it was the new way to practice slavery, but just somehow legally, you know, like it was so many people getting arrested for like minor drug charges, like of cocaine, but like there was like all those white men on Wall Street that the police knew and were protecting that were doing drugs and did not face any sort of criminal charges. So it's just, I mean, historically.
The biggest problem that comes from it is you know, the policies and systems that play a hand is because, you know, there may be different faces across time and space to, you know, like racism and everything, but, you know, like as soon as those people die out, you could say that like it would be over, but to instill it and keep it, you know, working through the time, it's the policies that, you know, like they're not inherently bad, but they're built on, you know, like racist beliefs, racist values, so that, you know, when these policies are still going on, you know, we could kick as many people as we want outside of out of these, you know, different seats and powers, but into like, I think our next step, because, you know, like I very much like, you know, the protests and everything, riots. I think our next step is, you know, like put people in seats of power, people of color, you know, people who will be able to change these systems and policies and make them better.
Definitely. I mean, if you have a Congress of, you know, a majority of straight white men, they might not have had the same struggles in life, but they've all had basically the same opportunities presented to them. So like you need to have people of all minorities. You need to have like Asian people, you have gay people, you need to have intersectional like identities. You need to have something of all identities so you can have all these people come up with a law or something that, you know, helps all these identities, something that all people can relate to and something that all people can get benefits from. Like you can't just have it be something that only one group of people have experienced. Like how are you ever going to know if that's reaching all the groups of people?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we have 2 minutes 40 seconds left of this. Would you guys like me to make another link and continue, or do you feel like you want to stop? Whatever you guys want to do.
We have a meeting at 4 o'clock. That's the only thing.
Okay.
I feel like we could keep going until like 3:50, and then we'll end it there. Go to our next meeting.
Okay. We'll just have to make another Zoom link.
All right.
Okay.
I think. I don't know if it keeps going or not.
Yeah, you just make another. You end this one.
I'll send another one out to you guys.
All right.
Okay, so I'll end this here, and then I'll make it and send it right out. All right.
So I just saw on the news that the other officers are being charged, so that's good.
Yes, and they also increased it to second-degree murder, which is a lot better than third.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, I also saw that the city of Minneapolis is going to launch like a racial bias investigation on the whole Minneapolis police department, because they said like there's generations of like systematic racism that they need to get out. So I think that's a really good step to, you know, investigate and, you know, weed out the people who are exercising their racial tendencies in their job.
Yeah, I just hope like it like branches out to like every police department.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And sad thing is, like, the history of policing is literally a mixture of northern and southern like culture. So like in terms of north, the neighborhood watch, and then southern slave catching. So these two different ideas that were happening in two different, you know, parts of the country kind of formed together in creating this the police, actually. Hence why it's so heavily racially based.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys have any other topics you want to talk about?
Honestly, I just hope within our own Brockport community that, you know, that Brockport police and Brockport UP look at this, you know, stand behind us and, you know, really support us and learn from what they're seeing from this. And, you know, I feel like this year, relations between police and students are going to be, you know, as crucial as ever because of what we deal with Dr. Archie and now reflecting on this. So I just want to, I hope that we see some growth from our own police department and our own community. That's what my goal is.
Adding on to that, I just want to say that when we think about the topic, who's missing from the table, add on to Giovanni's message, police officers should be joining the protests as well, alongside protesters. Because, you know, we have the conversation, good cops and bad cops. Well, I've always learned that if you see something wrong, do something about it. So if you see a police officer abusing his power, then you should step in and you should inform, you should try to talk to them, but also join the fighting against this, against abuse, against police brutality. You should be joining the fight as well, trying to help resolve solutions, but you also have the power to step in, to talk to someone and try to change what's happening.
Yeah.
So
I saw this video from Kiki Palmer was at a march and she was like talking to whoever they were, like in the military grade gear, and saying like, please just march with us, like please, like if you're saying this, like if you really truly mean it, like come march with us, like show us that you will be with us, stand with us. And he was like saying like, no, like I can't, like I can't, I can march with you down the street, but that's all I can do. He's like, I have to patrol this area. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, you have to patrol it. Like, that's the problem. Like, if you're with us, you will know, like, you'll be with us. And like, he took a knee and she's like, no, that's not enough for me. Like, I need more than that. Like, I mean, it's a lot of propaganda. So,
Yeah, I saw one video, this one officer was like crying in front of protesters, and then the posse behind him like removed him.
Yes,
I saw that.
And it just shows there's a lot of internal conflict between this because they know what they're doing is wrong and they're doing it, and it's more of like cognitive dissonance. They know they're doing something wrong yet they're doing it. And that moment there in that video just shows the internal conflict that one person was facing that he couldn't deal with because he know what he's doing is wrong. They know the real message behind the protests.
Yeah. I want to ask something kind of controversial on the topic of Brockport. So we interviewed both Dr. Acker and Dr. Archie. So to see both of them, and they are both very different, in my opinion. Did you think that Acker's response to all this was good, bad, or do you think, you know, Dr. Archie would have done something a little different if you saw it?
Honestly, I don't know. It seems it's awfully weird to hear her talk about what's going on now, and yet she has not even, you know, owned up to what she did. Like really own up. Like that was such a half-ass like apology that she gave us, and the fact that she didn't even admit what she did was wrong still. She just apologized. And then she has the audacity to speak on what's going on now. I'm like, even though this is about police brutality, it's mainly about racism. You created this on campus, and we still have unfinished business with you. Don't think that this is going to distract us from what you did, you know. So honestly, if Dr. Archie was still here, you know, would have been way different.
That's what I was thinking, that I feel like if Dr. Archie was here at this time, things would be extremely different. The responses, or, you know, what they put out would be, you know, very different. But he does have a great job now. Like, he's very happy. So I think that's great, and he is doing really good with the city. But yeah, I just want to ask that because I thought it was a little strange how different they really are.
My friend, she was just talking about how there's all these girls from my school who, you know, have said like racially insensitive things, or like just not been on the right side like throughout high school, and like now they're deciding to say things, and it's just like we know that you've said things before, like we know that you've used the N-word before, like why are you like, I mean, it's good to speak it out, but like it just seems so fake because whatever. And she's talking about how her like her husband who's Black, like the things that he experienced like in my town, and it's like when he was 7 years old he was getting these terrible things said to him, and his dad had to explain to him, and it's just like it's just you have to like not teach your kids that, and like it shouldn't, like Miranda said, it's not an excuse. You can't be 28 and then have your like enlightening. Like it has to happen immediately. You can't grow up with these ideas.
And this misconception that you have friends or loved ones or family members that are, you know, Black, that kind of like exempts them from racism is not true, and is just improves them. They're more racist than ever, because you can accept one Black person, and you personally know this Black person, so you accept them. But like, would you accept a Black person that you didn't know as a human? Would you have that same decency that you have with your loved one or whatever? It just bothers me that that's what like people say to that. Like, oh, you're just like, no, how can I be? I have friends, I have loved ones. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, so what?
Yeah. I saw this thing on Facebook, and she was talking about like how her cousin's married to this Black guy, and then like, but then when she's talking about like the protests and stuff, she's using words like them and stuff, and like this girl replied, and she was like, why don't you show that guy your comment where you use them? Is he a them too? Like think about this. Like, if you're like, you cannot say, oh, I have Black family, but then say these things too. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's the same with like people who are like, well, I don't have white privilege because I work hard and I've been through this, and people don't really understand what white privilege is, just because, you know, like no one ever said that people who have white privilege don't work hard, that they don't have problems in their life. It's just that they aren't oppressed by the color of their skin. And I think people need to understand that.
Yeah, just speaking on to that is like, you know, people in general, you know, we all have problems. You know, we all have our base of like problems. It sounds crazy, but like there's a problem that's general for everybody. But then it's like once you stack on different identities, you know, that's when more problems add on. You know, whether it is being a person of color, being Black, being female, you know, there's more problems depending on your sex, your gender, just multiple identities. So like to not realize that is really crazy.
Yeah, people need to start understanding their privilege.
I will be right back, Miranda. I'm getting a call about something that happened earlier. So.
Okay. So I know you guys have to go soon, but I already talked to Egypt about this, but I was wondering, do you guys want to do more of these like throughout even like next semester? Because we're gonna keep doing, I know like our documentary, it didn't really work out, but hopefully it'll be out this fall if we do return. But yeah, so hopefully we can do more of these, because obviously unfortunately there's probably going to be more things going on in the world. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else anyone wants to say? Any last words?
Well, I guess, you know, during these hard times, you know, during these hard times, you know, we rally, we come to protect each other, you know, and that's what it's important. Like, it really shows your allies, and at the end of the day, like it really appreciates who's down there for you, like who's like really down for you, and it sees who's on your side during. It shows who's on your side during times like that, and I feel like that's very important within a community to really know who your allies are for you.
Yeah, I think my ending point would to be is like, you know, we definitely need to push for solidarity. And I know you know, going more specifically into that is being an ally looks many different ways. I don't know if, you know, y'all have seen it, but I've seen, you know, circulating around medias like you're not black if you're like not out on the streets protesting with us, or like if you're not doing this or if you're not doing that. I think people need to realize that, you know, being an ally supporter or even being black, because, you know, some people try to strip each other identities, is that it looks different. You know, we're not always doing everything the same way. I think as long as, you know, you're doing things to benefit people of color, you know, whether that is being out there, making sure the awareness is being spread, informing others, or even being, you know, like opening up spaces for, you know, people of color to vent, black people to vent, because even then they need, you know, support in that way. You know, that's what really is what can help.
I would just say, don't get sidetracked, because it will be posts on social media that will say one thing. Right now I see a lot of M.O.C versus Malcolm X type posts, like, oh, the peace protesters ain't working no more, so we have to ride, we have to do this, or just things of that nature. Like, there will be, the system will try to put things in place to sidetrack you from your goals, from what you're really trying to push, what you're really trying to get through. I'm seeing a lot of things with mentioning police officers. Like, I seen some video with bricks they was placing down the streets. People, spies or something in costumes that are starting fires and stuff. You have subgroups and anti black people who wants to destroy what we're starting, what we're trying to do. And the system at its most lowest and most controversial stage will try to stop us from what we're trying to push through. So stay informed, continue watching what's happening, and just keep pushing through.
Yeah, I mean, you have to listen to the stories of the people who are there, the people who are experiencing it, because they know what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of, like, you know, like Trump said, like the fake news, like the media outlets really only tell like one side of the story. They're not showing what the police are doing to incite the violence. Like, it's very important to listen to the people who are there instead of someone reporting from home. Like, and it's also important, like, for white people to realize that, like, progress is uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Like, think, like, when you dig deep and you are getting rid of your racial biases, like, it's going to be, but that's a good thing, and that means that you're getting yourself into a better place and that you will be able to be a better ally in general.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you guys for doing this. Yeah, we'll keep you guys updated when we'll do, or you guys as well, if you guys want to do another one, we'll be down to do one whenever. Yeah, I think I was actually just thinking, you know, so we wanted to start like an online magazine kind of thing, talking about like real issues, because, you know, the Stylist doesn't even talk about things like this, and they're very biased there. So I was thinking, yeah, we could do like an online magazine and then post things like this, and yeah. So if you want to be a part of that, just let us know.
If we get it going, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you guys so much. We appreciated the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for setting up.
Thank you.
All right, have a good
Well,
one.
everyone stay safe and
Yes.
everything.
Yes, definitely. Same.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.